Who is Logan Stovall? What is he like? What is his role in the story? What sets him apart from the other characters in Primitive War? Today, we cover all of this and more as we delve into the sniper of Vulture Squad. Hello everyone, this is SaberX, and on this channel we delve into characters, creatures, and plots of books, films, and TV series such as the Primitive War franchise, the Inheritance Cycle, and soon, so much more, for we will also be covering other series including The Dragon Prince, Fairy Tale, and other sci-fi and fantasy books and TV series, some of which will be specials in their own right. If such subjects are to your liking, stay tuned as we explore into the world building of these franchises. So, without further ado, welcome, one and all. Logan Stovall is an interesting character within the Primitive War franchise. Physically, he is described as being thin and rather gaunt. In the first book of the franchise, Primitive War Opiate Undertow, and the accompanying graphic novel, he is shown to wear a Confederate bandana with little to no facial hair. However, he is missing said bandana in the film and has a prominent mustache. Personality-wise, Logan is a deeply troubled man trying to do what he thinks is right, which is becoming more and more difficult for him considering he has schizophrenia. These episodes of schizophrenia would lead to him hearing voices urging him to do things he considered to be terrible, including engage in killing. Schizophrenia is a scary diagnosis for anyone, but it can be dealt with and controlled. However, in 1968 Vietnam, in the line of military duty, schizophrenia is an extremely dangerous mental disorder to have, as it can affect your judgment, critical thinking, and your perception of reality depending on how bad it is. Indeed, it's so bad that it can and does end military careers. For Logan, this would normally have resulted in his immediate discharge once the military had discovered his condition. However, this was not to be, as we shall explain in a moment. According to Logan's backstory in Primitive War, Logan suffered his first schizophrenic episode when he was 12, when he killed his abusive father. We don't know much about what led to this first episode, but we do know from the books Logan's private life and mistreatment from his father was bad enough that it instigated this first schizophrenic episode. We also don't know much about Logan's life after this, but we do know that he ended up joining the military and that the schizophrenic episodes initially started appearing only once every few weeks once he joined the U.S. Army. During this time, Logan trained as a sniper and became one of the best snipers for his battalion. However, eventually the trauma of the war would increase these schizophrenic episodes and nearly lead him into trouble. During one such episode, he ended up breaking a soldier's arm after said soldier accosted him during a mission. This incident led to him meeting the man who would become his best friend, Gerald Keyes. Gerald stood up for Logan and covered for him to keep him from getting in trouble, and not long after, Logan told Gerald his secret about having schizophrenia. Because of their strong bond, Gerald was able to help Logan overcome and deal with his schizophrenia. Because he had Gerald to help him, Logan was able to deal with the voices in his head, and realized that the destruction they wanted was nothing but gibberish. Both Logan and Gerald would later join Vulture Squad under the command of Captain Ryan Baker, where they would also meet fellow soldiers Xavier Wise, Charlie Miller, Eli Taylor, and Leon Verne. Together, they served as a recon unit that helped liberate American soldiers from prison camps during the Vietnam War. By the events of the Primitive War novel, they had been working together for more than a year, with Logan now experiencing a schizophrenic episode every other day. Gerald served as Logan's spotter, ensuring he could properly take out Viet Cong soldiers and NVA with minimal effort. Sometimes on their missions, Logan would start hearing the schizophrenic voices, which Gerald helped him to ignore. As a result, Logan was largely stable in spite of his condition, and even when he listened to the voices, Logan never killed anyone who hadn't deserved to die, the targets always being enemy soldiers who tortured the men he and the rest of Vulture Squad were sent to rescue and bring home. Nonetheless, Logan feared that one day the only thing he might ever hear again were the voices in his head and nothing else, which was why, once they were assigned to rescue a platoon of Green Berets from a hidden valley in Vietnam, Gerald urged Logan to get help and have his condition treated once and for all. Logan agreed to this, saying that once this mission had been completed, he would seek the help he required. After being dropped off in the valley to search for the Green Beret, along with the research stations that the Green Beret had been pursuing, Logan was one of the witnesses to seeing his commander, Captain Baker, attacked by something large and fast. They would not realize what it was until the early morning of the following day. What Vulture Squad discovered was that the valley was infested with dinosaurs, including Tyrannosaurus rex and many other species. Unaware of how the dinosaurs were introduced to the valley, Vulture Squad continued on their mission, and were attacked en route while trying to find Ryan and Leon, who had been pursued by a male Tyrannosaurus rex. Logan, Gerald, Xavier, Eli, and Miller would all eventually stumble upon a herd of Stygimoloch during their search for Ryan and Leon, and the five were attacked by predators, Deinonychus. The Deinonychus managed to separate many members of Vulture Squad from one another when they caused the herbivores to stampede, including Logan. Indeed, the attack by these predatory dinosaurs was enough to induce a schizophrenic episode in Logan, which resulted in him killing the predator in a brutal manner, nearly succumbing to the voices in his head until he heard Gerald's voice. When Gerald managed to reunite with Logan again, the two of them were attacked by more Deinonychus, who dragged Gerald away, nearly killing him, only to be stopped by the scent of another, even larger predator. Logan, desperate to save Gerald, raced after him, pursued quickly by Vulture Squad. By this point, Logan was in a panic, fearing that the Deinonychus had dragged him away to eat him. Adding to the confusion was the appearance of Ryan, Leon, and their new ally, the Russian scientist Andrei Wynn. But something worse had Gerald already. As they zeroed in on Gerald's trail, a huge clump of ferns erupted in front of them, revealing itself to be a Utah raptor, which had attacked and had begun eviscerating Gerald while he was still alive. Panicking, the group engaged in a standoff with the dinosaur and fired on it the moment it turned its back to flee with Gerald in its talons. Logan raced behind, catching up quickly enough to save Gerald from the killing blow, driving his Kabar knife into the dinosaur's eye. This, and the subsequent gunfire from Logan's teammates on Vulture Squad, drove the dinosaur, now christened the Cyclops, away. With the dinosaur gone for now, Vulture Squad was forced to patch Gerald up as best they could, with Logan terrified and panicking at the sight of his mutilated friend. They quickly carried him back to Andrei's research station, where the group learned about Andrei's involvement with the Russian general Grigory Borodin, who had brought the dinosaurs to the modern era using a particle collider. All the while, Logan began to suffer another schizophrenic episode, with Gerald, now high on morphine, reminding him that Vulture Squad needed him and his help. Gerald's words and the touch of his hand comforting Logan was enough to snap him out of his schizophrenia, resulting in him fighting to protect the injured Gerald as they waited for an evacuation helicopter. When the Utah Raptors led by the Cyclops returned and attacked, Logan was instrumental in fighting them off, but eventually Vulture Squad was forced to flee and carry Gerald to the helicopter. However, the Cyclops returned personally for Gerald and instigated a bloody tug-of-war over him, nearly ripping Gerald in half. Hearing his friend screaming and watching him suffer, Logan, now fully coming into a schizophrenic episode, did the only thing there was left to do. He mercy-killed Gerald and let the Utah Raptor take the body, distracting the dinosaurs long enough for Vulture Squad to get away, as Leon had also been wounded in the fight. Logan remained despondent until they returned to base, even as Miller was knocked out of the helicopter by a near miss from a rocket launcher, courtesy of the Viet Cong forces in the valley, and a Tyrannosaurus nearly downing the helicopter. Ryan would later confront and comfort Logan, saying that he did the right thing by not letting Gerald suffer. Logan broke down in tears to Ryan, distraught over what he had been forced to do, and that he had listened to the voices plaguing his thoughts. Ryan did not understand this, as he was not aware of Logan's condition, but he did his best to comfort and console his teammate. As a result, Ryan was able to convince Logan to help finish the mission to stop General Borodin, and Logan, sufficiently motivated, was able to keep his schizophrenia in check for the team. After gaining the necessary intel to complete the mission on behalf of their commander, General Amadeus Jericho, Vulture Squad, minus Leon as he had just come out of surgery for his injuries, took a boat upriver to track down the Russian general's base. En route, they came across a feeding herd of Triceratops. However, the apparent peacefulness of this encounter was interrupted by something far more dangerous: the semi-terrestrial crocodile Caprasuchus. A massive pack of these giant, ferocious reptiles attacked the Triceratops and Vulture Squad, along with Jericho's Black Ops team during their voyage. Realizing that his team was not going to make it out alive if something wasn't done, Logan, in an act of self-sacrifice, jumped off the boat and lured the crocodiles away, convincing the pack of predators to chase him. All the while, his schizophrenia gave the creatures voices, as he shot at and tried to avoid the animals. However, Logan was ultimately cornered and devoured. But it didn't matter. With his dying breath, he had saved the remaining members of Vulture Squad, and his last moments of consciousness were of him ascending to heaven and being reunited with Gerald, reassured in his last moments that he had died a hero. Logan's sacrifice would not be in vain, as despite his death, Vulture Squad was able to complete their mission, though both Miller and Ryan himself perished in the line of duty. Their sacrifices would be honored by the survival of the remaining members of Vulture Squad, Xavier, Leon, and Eli, who all were able to carry on with their lives and continue the work that Vulture Squad had initially started in dealing with the dinosaurs, with Leon getting to go home with an honorable discharge. In comparison to the events of the books, Logan's story is somewhat different. In the movie, his schizophrenia is more widely known among the members of Vulture Squad, and clearly more visible in some aspects. His schizophrenia also affects him somewhat differently than in the book. Logan ends up saying much more of the nonsense said to him by the voices in his head aloud, which he claims helps him to focus when sniping enemy soldiers. Just as in the film, Gerald is his best friend and cares deeply for him, recommending that he get help and talk about his problems, which Logan agrees to after the mission is completed. Logan is also slightly more vocal about his opinions and his feelings in the film than he is in the book, as he actively believes that Jericho is hiding key information from them, including the existence of the dinosaurs. Indeed, his statement of, "There's monsters out there," turns out to be quite accurate. Likewise, Logan is exceptionally fierce when trying to protect Gerald, and when he is attacked by the Cyclops, he is quite visibly distraught. He is also visibly heartbroken and traumatized when Gerald decides to sacrifice himself so that everyone else can escape the Utah Raptors. During the boat ride up the river after Vulture Squad escapes from the dinosaurs, Logan ends up nearly succumbing to his schizophrenia, as a resulting Spinosaurus attack, coupled with Ryan's words, nearly caused him to commit suicide when he misinterpreted them. Ryan, however, manages to keep him under control, reminding him that it's not his time to die, and that the rest of Vulture Squad needed him. In what is the biggest divergence from the plot of the books and the film, Vulture Squad is attacked by a large group of Deinonychus after they leave the boat, which replaced the Caprosuchus in the novel. Nevertheless, just as in the book, Logan manages to lead the dinosaurs away, encouraging them to attack him instead of his squad mates. He likewise dies valiantly, deciding to take his own life so that the dinosaurs will focus on eating him rather than killing and eating his friends. Just as within the book, his last moments of consciousness are him hearing Gerald's voice in his head, reminding him that he's a hero. So, what does all of this tell us about Logan in both the movie and the novel? First off, it's very clear that Logan is a sad and troubled young man. Because of his schizophrenia, he has trouble understanding the difference between fantasy and reality, and he has said himself in the novel that his biggest fear was that one day he would be afraid that all he would hear would be the voices in his head and nothing else. His schizophrenia also caused him to kill another person before he entered the military, this person being his abusive father. This act could easily be considered murder or manslaughter by any means, but it also could easily be considered justifiable self-defense because of Logan's own mental state, and the fact that his father was cruel and abusive. During his time in the military, in spite of these voices in his head giving him trouble, Logan never killed anyone without good cause. He never killed anyone who didn't deserve it. Ultimately, Logan's sense of honor and justice was enough that, when combined with his friendship with Gerald and the brotherly bond of his squad, he was able to keep his schizophrenia under control. The few times he wasn't, it was brought on by acts of self-preservation, such as when he killed the Deinonychus trying to eat him, or a desire to end the suffering of someone close to him, such as when he had to mercy kill Gerald. At the end, in spite of these problems, Logan's commitment to the safety and desire to protect his team won out over the madness of his schizophrenia. His final act was arguably the most noble of his entire life, as he willingly sacrificed himself so that the rest of his team could escape certain death from the prehistoric animals unleashed by the Soviet experiment. If this isn't true bravery and self-sacrifice in the face of overwhelming odds, I don't know what is. In the end, Logan Stovall was a perfect example of a good soldier willing to lay down his life for the rest of his unit, and despite his problems, he was willing to protect them no matter the cost. As such, I would consider him one of the most fleshed-out characters in the novel. I hope you might find that true as well. With that in mind, here's where I would like to end this video. If you enjoyed this look into the character of Logan Stovall, I hope you will stay tuned for more videos on books and films like this. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe and hit the bell icon for more content like this. Every little bit helps out this channel and makes it grow so that more viewers like you can watch. And I should like to very much expand on the subject matter of science fiction and fantasy stories like this. As always, I appreciate everyone who tunes in to watch, and everyone who wants to talk about this series and the stories. As always, thank you for watching. Good night, everyone.